Chapter 18. The Birthday Party. The other day, Mrs. Moore was at her friend Lily's birthday party. When it is your birthday, you have a party for your friends. Some days before, the postman had brought her a letter from her friend. In the letter, Lily wrote that she would be very glad to see her at her birthday party on the next Wednesday, and that she wanted her to come to dinner at 7 o'clock. "Look here," Mrs. Moore said to her husband and gave him the letter, "an invitation to my best friend Lily's birthday party, and it is not an invitation to afternoon tea, but to dinner, and later we are to have chocolate. How glad I shall be to put on my new dress for the first time. You will dine town then that day, my dear, will you not?" What is a letter? The English word letter means two things. First, it means one of the letters of the alphabet, A, B, C, etc. Then it means a piece of paper on which you have written something to a person. Who brings you the letters? The postman brings the letters. Who wrote a letter to Mrs. Moore? Her friend Lily wrote her a letter in which she asked her to dinner on her birthday. Did Lily invite Mrs. Moore's husband too? No, she only invited Mrs. Moore. The invitation was not for Mr. Moore. What is chocolate? It is a brown drink which people sometimes have, but you can also buy a piece of chocolate in a shop to eat, and then you get it in a piece of paper. On Wednesday, Mrs. Moore had to begin 2 hours before the party to make herself ready. She began to make herself ready in the afternoon at 5 o'clock. She took a bath and then she dressed, that is, she put on her clothes, and at 6:30 she was ready to go. "Now, be good children," she said to Thomas and Lucy. "If you are naughty tonight when I am away, you must not go out and play tomorrow. Ethan is always a good boy when he is alone at home, but you are not always good. You have been naughty children the last 2 or 3 times I have been away. But this time we will be good children, Mama." "All right, then I will go. Goodbye, children."
Goodbye, Mama.
At what time did Mrs. Moore begin to make herself ready for Lily's birthday party? She began at 5 o'clock. What did she do? First she took a bath, and then she dressed. What does the word to dress mean? It means to put on your clothes. Are Lucy and Thomas always good children? No, they are not always good. Sometimes they are naughty. Is Ethan always a good boy? Yes, he is always a good boy. What did Mrs. Moore say to her children just before she went to the birthday party? She said, "Goodbye, children." "Hello, Lily. How are you?" "Hello, Emma. I am very well, thank you, and I hope you are well, too." "I am all right, thank you. And how is your sister? The last time I heard of her, she was ill." "She is better now, thank you, but she is still in bed. I hope it will not be long before she is all right again. Here is my birthday present for you. I hope you will like it." "Oh, a pair of silk stockings. Thank you, dear. I had hoped for a pair of stockings, but it is too much to give me such a fine birthday present." "Oh no, you have always been such a good and dear friend to me." "Lily, it is kind of you to say that, my dear. Now all my guests have come. You know them all, Emma, except this young lady. This is Mrs. Jones, and this is Mrs. Moore." "Mrs. Moore, nice to meet you, Mrs. Jones." "Mrs. Jones, nice to meet you too, Mrs. Moore." "Lily, dinner is ready now?" Did Mrs. Moore give Lily a birthday present? Yes, she gave her a pair of silk stockings as a birthday present. Did Lily like her birthday present? Yes, ladies are always glad to get such presents. They can never get enough clothes. Did Lily have other guests than Mrs. Moore and Mrs. Jones on her birthday? Yes, she had still other guests on her birthday. When do people have guests? When they give a party, they invite guests to come to their home. Were all the people at the party ladies? No, not all, but almost all of them were ladies. The only gentleman was Lily's husband. Were all the guests ladies? Yes, all the guests were ladies. Lily's husband was not a guest in his own house. Did Mrs. Moore know all the guests? No, she did not know all of them, but almost all. She had never seen Mrs. Jones before. What did Mrs. Moore say when she saw Mrs. Jones? She said, "How do you do?" And what did Mrs. Jones say? She said, "How do you do too?" In English you say, "How do you do" the first time you see a person. But when you see a person you know well, you only say hello or how are you.